Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 15 of the Old Men Magic podcast, where your hosts Alex and Steve discuss current and not so current matters in the world of Magic the Gathering. How you doing, Alex?
Good. How's it going?
Pretty good. Alex, I think we have some not so current matters in the world of Magic the Gathering to talk about. Last week was pretty much all current matters. MTG 30th anniversary celebration in Las Vegas happened. We discussed a little bit of that. We discussed a new product that Wizards of the Coast had printed, a new product that I might actually buy. It might be, I think I talked myself into wanting to buy the 30th anniversary Secret Lair. We will figure out, we'll see what happens, but I might do it. But today's going to be a blast from the past, Alex. We're going to talk about some
blast
cards.
from the past.
We're going to talk about some cards that were printed a long time ago, but I didn't know about because I quit paying attention back in 97, 98. And these were printed after I stopped paying attention. Before we get into that, Alex, I wanted to do a follow-up to the last episode. In the last episode, I teased some information about natural order. We've been having this ongoing discussion where we've been trying to figure out.
Have we?
We've been trying to figure out what is the big cat that's in the image on the card natural order. Is it a leopard? Is it a cheetah? Is it a jaguar? We decided a long time ago that it's not a jaguar. For obvious reasons I'm not going to get into again. Two weeks ago, I thought I had the answer. Then new shit came to light. We received some information from a friend we have in common. I did some reading. I read some of the material that he sent me. New shit came to light, and I was like, oh, I don't know any longer. So last week I said I was going to hit the books. I was maybe going to head down to the main library branch downtown. I was going to talk to some librarians. I was going to do some research. I was going to open Encyclopedia Britannica. I was going to look through old issues of National Geographic.
Microfiche?
Microfiche. Maybe I would get there one day. We'll see how far down the rabbit hole I have to go to get an answer to this question. This week, I just want to say I didn't make it to the library. So I still am not really sure. I know that it's not a jaguar. I know that it's either a cheetah or a leopard. I hope to have this figured out soon. That's the only real follow-up I have to the previous episode. For this episode, Blast from the Past, we're going to discuss the Oath Cycle, Alex.
Yes.
Ask me what the Oath Cycle is.
What's the Oath Cycle?
The Oath Cycle is a series of 5 enchantment cards that were printed in the set Exodus. Each color has an Oath card, and each Oath card functions to balance a resource of some type.
Okay.
So there's one for white, one for blue, one for black, one for red, one for green. I'm going to get into these 5 cards. I saw a couple of them. One of them in particular is played pretty heavily in pre-modern. That's how I was introduced to the Oath Cycle. I saw that. I was like, oh, this card's awesome. Then I found out there were 4 others for each color, one for each color. I'll start with the white one. The white Oath card is Oath of Lieges. I will pull up Oath of Lieges for you, Alex. I don't know if you've ever seen this one.
It doesn't look familiar.
Does it look familiar?
Past at one point when I was looking at these, but
doesn't look familiar, doesn't sound familiar. Oath of Lieges is a rare. Its first and only printing so far is an Exodus, and it's not a reserve list card. They just have decided not to reprint it yet. Its casting cost is 1 white, 1 colorless enchantment. And this card balances lands. So during each player's upkeep, if that player controls fewer lands than target opponent, the player may search his or her library for a basic land card only, and put that land into play. The player then shuffles his or her library afterwards.
Okay.
So this is not the one that I first saw that got me excited about the Oath cards. I don't really know what people do with this card, to be honest. I looked into it a little bit and it doesn't seem like it gets a whole lot of play, but it's not cheap, so
Yeah, it
it
looks like
has
it's
some
6 or 7
interest.
bucks.
Current market price is $6.82. That's well above like bulk rare prices. So people are buying it. Full disclosure, I have one copy. I purchased it for $3.50. I pulled it out of a box at a local card store that I went to.
Oh,
I was like, I don't think I'm going to play this, but I've seen the oaths before. There's a couple that I do want to play. And I'm like, maybe I'll find a use for this at some point. My issue with this card is why would anybody ever want to play this instead of land tax? Can you think of a reason? Anything that would ever make this better than land tax? So land tax is less mana.
yeah.
It's just one white. It's also an enchantment. So it's equally difficult or equally easy to get rid of, however you want to look at it. And it helps just you search for lands and play lands. Whereas Oath of Lieges is like a land tax almost for both players. So maybe there's some cases where you would like want your opponent to search for lands, to draw lands. I don't know. It does say you have to put the land. The player may search his or her library for a basic land card and put that land into play. So I was going to say they don't have to. I was trying to think of maybe there would be a reason why you would want to make your opponent play lands. Like if you were making an Ankh of Mishra deck or something and they got damaged every time you played a land, but that's not the case. So I'm not entirely sure like what makes this card playable in a
Well,
world
first
where
I
you have
was
land tax.
confused, but I just looked it up and it actually, the errata on it says at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player chooses target player who controls more land than they do and is their opponent. So this does work back and forth for you and your opponent, doesn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay. At first I thought maybe it was just worded funny and it was like, like when I play Oath of Lieges, I pick an opponent. Then when it's my opponent's turn, they obviously can't have fewer lands than themselves, so it wouldn't work for them. Do you see what I mean? Because like
But they
they're
get
the
to pick
person,
you.
but they get to pick me. Okay.
Yeah.
So in a multiplayer game, it's going to go around. If you want that to happen for some reason, it's going to affect everyone.
That doesn't happen in land tax. Yeah. So I keep forgetting about multiplayer games. Like there would be times this could help other people in the game. They might want to keep you around because you have an Oath of Lieges out and they get to draw lands, search for lands.
Yeah. The other
Maybe.
thing is that Oath of Lieges, you put the land into play immediately. Land tax,
That's
it's
also
3
true.
lands and they go to your hand. So,
That's also true.
take your pick. I mean, also though you have Tithe as an option. And I think there's 1 or 2 more cards that kind of do similar things to this too.
There's a creature. I can't remember the name, but it was a creature in a pre-modern set that I found out about that was pretty cool. Basically allows you to search for and either put a land into your hand or put it into play. I'll have to look into that at some point and remind myself of what that is, what card that is. I guess it's significantly cheap. Is it significantly cheaper than land tax? That's another thing too.
Yeah.
Like
For
maybe
in
I know
real money, in real life money, you mean?
Yeah, I know of course
Yeah.
that it's cheaper than Legends land tax, but what about
I
some of
think
the
those
reprints of
still
land tax?
have value. I'm not sure exactly how much, but I think they're not the cheapest. Still $30 or
Yeah, I forgot about that. The 4th edition land tax is still, $36 market price right now. And I knew that there was this reprint too, the Battle Bond reprint, but it's also $36 right now. Double Masters, $37. So yeah, it's significantly cheaper than land tax. So maybe people are going to Oath of Lieges as a budget land tax. That could be one reason why you would want to play it. But it's a cool card. It's not that I don't like it. It's just that I have something else to compare it to that I feel I'd rather play pretty much all the time. And while it's more expensive, it's not out of my price range. We're not talking like $300 for a land tax. We're talking about $30 to $40. Even a Legends, $82. Could probably get this on eBay. I've seen on eBay for eBay prices are usually cheaper than TCG player prices or prices from stores. $50. You can pick up a land tax. Land tax says during your upkeep, if an opponent controls more land than you may search your library, remove up to 3 basic land cards, put them into your hand, reshuffle your library afterwards. So it just applies to you. You get to pull 3 lands at a time. So you're thinning your deck quicker. But you don't get to put them directly into play. That's usually not much of a problem, though, really.
Yeah, I mean the
It doesn't
oath will, it can help you earlier, faster, maybe,
Yes.
but like the land tax, you're gonna get 3 lands in your hand. So for the next few turns, you're
Yes.
getting the benefit of it.
You're never
Well,
going to miss a mana drop.
And I like that
It
it's
doesn't
1 white to cast.
It doesn't give you mana ramp, but you're never going to miss a land drop if you get it out first turn, and you get to
Yeah.
play it a turn sooner.
Plus you, assuming, the other one that you aren't catching up eventually with oath, like you're gonna thin your deck more with this
Yeah,
initially, you know what I mean? Which is
yeah.
good, because then the land's in your hand, and the next things you're drawing are gonna be other cards you want.
That's what I love about it too. Yeah, you
the
thin your
way I'm
deck.
looking at it.
You're going to have enough mana because your hand's going to be full of lands, and you're probably going to be able to cast whatever it is you pull next on time. Anyways, Oath of Legis. Decent card. Not as good as Land Tax, in my opinion, but cheaper and maybe better to play in a multiplayer game, which I don't usually think about. The next Oath card is Oath of Scholars. You probably haven't seen this one. I don't think I ever saw this one until I started looking at the whole cycle. Oath of Scholars is a rare, first and only printing is in Exodus. It's not on the reserve list. They just have chosen not to reprint it. Casting cost, 3 colorless and 1 blue. So I think all of the other cards in this cycle are 1 colorless and 1 colored mana. For some reason, they made Oath of Scholars, which is the blue card, which isn't like known for mana ramp or anything. 3 colorless and 1 blue. It makes me wonder if it was like a printing error or something, or if somebody just decided, let's make a terrible blue card.
I think they just thought this one has to do with card draw, and card draw is strong.
Yeah. Enchantment during each player's upkeep. If that player has fewer cards in hand than target opponent, that the player may discard his or her hand and draw 3 cards. So I was trying to think what I would do with this. It's like, I don't know. Megrim deck, maybe? Because that would punish your opponent every time they wanted to.
Yeah, you could do it in a
activate
deck
this
where you're
effect.
trying to fill up your own graveyard.
Yeah. So I also thought Psychotog, Madness, Reanimator decks,
Yeah.
Threshold decks, any of those types. Thinking of any kind of deck where you would want to discard. I also thought pair this card with Nullbrooch. I don't know if you've seen Nullbrooch, but Nullbrooch is another card that I think was printed in Exodus. Yes, an artifact in Exodus. 4 colorless. 2 colorless tap. Discard your hand. Counter target non-creature spell. Play this ability as an interrupt. So it's like, most of the time I'm not going to want to discard my hand. But let's say you use Nullbreach to counter a spell your opponent plays. You discard your hand. Then you have no cards in your hand.
Yeah.
So during your upkeep, if you have Oath of Scholars out, you're probably not going to have more cards in your hand than your opponent.
Right. Yeah.
So you're just going to draw 3 cards. You won't even have to discard your hand because you don't have a hand to discard. So you just draw 3 cards.
Yeah.
Nullbreach to counter, and then with Oath of Scholars out at the same time, it's a draw 3 cards.
Yeah, or it's definitely, I mean, I feel like it could be used in going back to the Oath, like Oath of Scholars, like in like a blue-red burn deck, like how people use like scroll, what am I thinking of? Cursed Scroll or Scroll Rack? Cursed Scroll, I think. When they're
Cursed Scroll's the direct damage card.
Yeah. Late in the game when they don't have a full hand, because they've spent all of their spells out of their hand, they have that to like keep going still and something to use their mana on. Same thing with Oath of Scholars in like a heater deck. If you've used up all your, you've emptied your hand with all your burn spells,
Mhm.
then you'd be drawing that. So
I could play this in my Indentured Djinn deck, where every time I attack or do damage, what is Indentured Djinn again? Does it do damage? It's a terrible card that allows your opponent to draw cards. 4/4 flying. When it comes into play, each other player may draw up to 3 cards.
oh yeah,
So they'll draw their cards, but then they'll probably have more cards in their hand than me. But then next
Yeah.
turn around, I'll draw from Oath of Scholars, although I have to discard first. That's a bad
yeah.
thing.
Seems like kind of a long way to go, but
Oh yeah. The point of this Indentured Djinn deck, Alex, is to make a terrible deck.
I see.
So
Very good, very good.
so yeah, I don't know. Graveyard deck. Put this in something that I want to get cards into my graveyard for. Psychotog, Madness, Reanimator, Threshold, Megrim, maybe. Not that Megrim is a deck where I want to get cards in my graveyard, but you know what I'm talking about. Because my opponent, the opponent has to discard to take advantage
Yes.
of the benefit of Oath of Scholars. So they'll get damaged when they discard. Current market price of Oath of Scholars is 26 cents, Alex. So basically this card is unplayed. It's nobody uses this for anything. I don't know if they ever did. What if you pull this one up on Gatherer? I wonder what the rating is. It's probably 2 point something. No, 3.5 is the community rating on Gatherer for Oath of Scholars. If something was ever 3.5, it had to have been played at some point.
Yeah.
Because that's a pretty good rating. These people mentioned here, the first one mentions, first comment says, awesome when combined with Null Brooch or other discard cards. Great with Pyromancer's Swath, but I think the card could cost 1 less. I don't know what Pyromancer's Swath is. It looks like some new border set. 2 colorless, 1 red enchantment. If an instant or sorcery source you control would deal damage to a creature or player, it deals that much damage plus 2 to that creature or player instead. Jeez. At the beginning of each end step, discard your hand.
Oh, okay.
So this is a card that just encourages you to, like, as soon as you draw a burn spell, just play it.
Yeah.
It heats everything up.
Yeah, it definitely combos well with that. I like that.
Yeah. The worst thing about Oath of Scholars is that it's 4 mana.
So yeah.
That's a major downside, especially when you consider the rest of these Oath cards are just 2 mana, 2 casting cost. Oath of Scholars, I don't know, some interesting use cases. Maybe I'll play it in terrible decks that I'm trying to build, but not widely played, not widely respected.
I'm not super impressed. Yeah, I can see maybe it being fun, but I don't know. Seems like it's too touchy. You have to have the right situation, then it might get out of control. I don't know.
Yeah. The next one, Alex. The next oath is Oath of Ghouls. So this is a rare, first and only printing in Exodus. This is a reserve list card.
Yeah.
I don't really know why. Who knows why they put some cards on the reserve list? But they chose Oath of Ghouls to put on the reserve list. I think it might be the only card in this cycle that is reserve list. Its casting cost is 1 colorless, 1 black. It's an enchantment. During each player's upkeep, so this one balances creatures. You're seeing white balances land, blue balances hand size, black balances creatures. During each player's upkeep, if there are more creature cards in that player's graveyard than in target opponent's graveyard, the player may return a creature card from his or her graveyard to his or her hand. So it allows for creature recursion. Doesn't put it directly into play. You still have to play it.
Yeah.
You can bring things back from your graveyard. So I don't know, man. My ideas for how to use this card were similar to my ideas for for Oath of Scholars. Use it in a Madness deck, Reanimation deck, a Null Brooch deck. I'm trying to think of things that like you want to discard for, like Madness, Null Brooch. Use that as an opportunity to put something in your graveyard. Then you'll have more creatures in your graveyard, and then you'll just get to bring them back. So you're not. That's not great. My ideas for this so far are not great. I'm just really thinking of like you can kind of use this in the way that Squee is used. Just to bring something that you were forced to discard for some other reason just back to your hand, and you can just keep bringing it back. So you could use it as like a recurring discard engine.
Yeah. Okay.
So with the Null Brooch, you have to what? You have to discard more than one. You can't just discard one card. Null Brooch, discard your hand.
Yeah, your hand. Yeah.
Maybe you only have one creature in your hand. If you only
I
have
like
one
this.
creature, what were you gonna say?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, if your hand's super small at that point, then yeah, not a big deal. I was gonna say I know all of them are gonna affect multiplayer game, but I think maybe I like this one the most for that reason is because in a multiplayer game, everyone's sort of like it introduces chaos. Like everyone's bringing creatures back all the time and like refilling the board. It's like a churning like effect on like the creature state of the board. So I kind of like it might make for some fun games.
I never think about multiplayer. Some of the comments I saw, some people mentioned a card named Oversold Cemetery. This person commented on Gatherer, Cathode 01, Cathode 01. I also think that in almost all situations, Oversold Cemetery would be a better choice. I had never seen Oversold Cemetery.
I saw this a little while ago. I forget why I came across it. It might have been because it went up in price.
Maybe I did see it, and this could have been a card like you showed me, and I just forgot you showed me. But Oversold Cemetery, same casting cost, one colorless, one black, an enchantment, just like Oath of Ghouls. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 4 or more creature cards in your graveyard, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So it seems more consistent.
Yeah.
Right? You can easily control whether or not you have 4 or more creatures.
Yeah, you can build around that a little more reliably.
As opposed to having more than your opponent, because who knows what your opponent's going to do. Although your opponent could affect this too. They could bust out their Tormod's Crypt. They could bust out their Phyrexian Furnace. Just keep tapping it and removing creatures from your graveyard. But I think overall it's probably more consistent. It can be more consistently activated than Oath of Ghouls. Not everybody agrees that Oversold Cemetery is better than Oath of Ghouls. There was some arguments that I saw, like in the Gatherer comments.
Yeah, a little niche use here or there. They mentioned what's that Leyline of.
There's a few ley lines, so I don't know. I know there's a card called Leyline of the Void.
I think the comments on that said Singularity. I can't remember.
Oh, there is a Leyline of Singularity too.
I can't remember. Just scroll down again and see what it said on there.
Leyline of the Void.
Leyline of the Void, sorry.
I don't know what Leyline of the Void is. So this has a time-shifted symbol. I don't know what it was originally printed in. It is a 2 colorless, 2 black enchantment. If Leyline of the Void is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. That's kind of wild. If a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So basically, you have to have Leyline of the Void out and Oath of Ghouls out, and you just exile every creature that might go to their graveyard. So you always have more creatures in your graveyard than your opponent does.
Yeah.
You could also run, I was talking about Tormod's Crypt, Phyrexian Furnace. Now that I think about that, of course, you could just put those cards in your Oath of Ghouls, Phyrexian Furnace. I mean, you could put those cards in your Oath of Ghouls decks and just use them to remove any creatures from your opponent's graveyard that might be there. And that way, kind of control, make sure your graveyard is consistently larger than your opponent's creature wise. So that can help you bring back your creatures. I think it's a kind of fun card.
Yeah, I think so too. I had looked at this a while ago because it's reserved list and it's fallen back down to $5 or whatever, and I never bought it, but I'm just not sure I'll play with it. But
I kind of want to try to build it in a deck. I know I've seen some Oath of Ghouls decks out there. I haven't watched any of them in action, and I can't remember what was in all these builds. But I do want to look into that at some point. See if there are any competitive decks with Oath of Ghouls in the list, or that are built around Oath of Ghouls. See how people get this to work exactly. Oversold Cemetery, the other card people use for this purpose, is a market price of $17.46 right now.
Oh, okay.
So it's not a cheap card. Leyline of the Void. I want to see what set this was in. Originally printed in Guild Pact, maybe?
Seems like there's a couple ley lines in Guild Pact. Maybe there's a cycle of them in that set.
Reprint Guild Pact, also printed in Magic 2011, also in Time Spiral Remastered, also in Core Set 2020. They're all $10 about $10. And how much is Oath of Ghouls running right now? Oath of Ghouls had a reserve list buyout spike. It went from like $2 in 2020 to over $20 briefly in the summer of 2021. And now it's come all the way back down to about $5 market price. So cheaper than Leyline of the Void, cheaper than Oversold Cemetery. Fairly similar. Actually, it's not similar to Leyline of the Void. It combos well with Leyline of the Void.
Yeah. I'm glad it's coming back down in value because I don't think,
Yeah, exactly.
A little spike there.
I would maybe like to play this card, but I'm not going to buy a playset for $80 or $100. So there's no way I'd be buying this card at like $24, $25. Weird that it is a reserve list card. I do want to ask questions when I see cards like this that are on the reserve list. People like, why did you choose this?
Yeah,
one?
I know. It's so random.
I have no clue. How many did we go through? We went through 3 so far.
Oath of Mages still?
Oath of Mages. This is the red.
Yeah.
This is the red Oath, Alex. Oath of Mages is a rare. First and only printing in Exodus, not on the reserve list. Casting costs 1 colorless, 1 red, enchantment. During each player's upkeep, if that player has less life than target opponent, he or she may have Oath of Mages deal 1 damage to that opponent. My comment on this card, Alex, is it's rubbish. It's total rubbish.
Pretty bad. It's pretty
like bad. A card that you might be able to use to do 1 damage to your opponent.
Yeah, which is so slow.
And they could do the same to you.
Yeah, and eventually, if you're going to win the game, if you're going to beat them, eventually that table will flip.
It does nothing
into to their advantage before you are finally able to kill them. Probably so. Like,
yeah, it's terrible. The current market price for this card is 29 cents. It's essentially unplayed.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I'll see they did this to red with the land cycle in one of the Urza sets. Is it Urza's Saga? Whatever the land cycle is, where you have like Gaia's Cradle. It's Urza Saga. Gaia's Cradle.
Oh yeah, it has the Shivan Gorge
or Sanctum. Yeah, Shivan Gorge, where you like tap to do 1 damage or something. It's like you have some of the best non-basic lands for each color that were ever printed, and then you have Shivan Gorge.
Yeah,
and they did a similar thing here with the Oath cycle in Exodus, although like the rest of the cycle isn't nearly as awesome or as powerful as like Gaia's Cradle or Serra's Sanctum.
Yeah, but this one's clearly like bad,
terrible. Yeah, market price 29 cents. When I looked this up in Gatherer, I don't even know if there were any comments.
It has a rating of 2.6, which is pretty bad.
That's, you don't really usually get lower than that.
This says, remember when Inquest named this the worst card in Exodus?
Oh yeah, okay. There are comments. Yeah, that's the first comment. Inquest named this the worst card in Exodus. They were right.
Another guy says, my cousin has this card, but he's bad at Magic.
Yes. Would have been good if it dealt 3. Would be good if it did something else.
Yeah, yeah. If it was more than 1 damage.
Probably the only positive, and it's not even really a positive, the only non-negative comment is this person saying, this is not really a good card, but it could be fun considering multiplayer and all. It could be.
Yeah.
And that comment can apply to anything that has a similar mechanic in that, like during each player's upkeep, you check. So like this could be applied to every single Oath card. You've brought up multiplayer already. We've talked about like the first 3, multiplayer. Multiplayer card, especially if you have Ivory Mask or something similar in play, forcing your opponents to keep targeting each other. That is true, but there's so many other things I'd rather have out in combination with Ivory Mask.
Just
it's
like it's a clunky combo.
That's the problem when you run into like a terrible card like this. You could always think of like things that it's decent to run with, but there are always also just better cards you'd also rather run in the combo with whatever card, like Ivory Mask you want to combo with. Oath of Mages, Alex, is friggin' terrible. won't be buying that. They should have put this one on the reserve list.
Just because of how bad it is.
Yeah, just to try to get people to buy it for no good reason.
That's funny.
Now, the last card in the Oath cycle, this is the first Oath card I ever saw. This is the one that gets the most play, at least in pre-modern, probably the most play in any format. And it is the green Oath card, Oath of Druids. Rare, first printing is in Exodus. It has been reprinted in Commander 2016. So its casting cost is 1 colorless and 1 green. It's an enchantment. And during each player's upkeep, if that player controls fewer creatures than target opponent, the player may reveal cards from his or her library until he or she reveals a creature card. That player puts that creature card into play and all other revealed cards into his or her graveyard. So it's like, in some ways, it's similar to the other Oath cards in that it has like each player during the upkeep check on a resource and then do something to try to balance that resource with however much of that resource your opponent has. But it also like, it allows you to mill your deck to some extent. Right? Which you want to do for certain reasons, depending on what kind of deck you're playing. It puts the card directly into play instead of just in your hand.
That's the big thing to me
awesome.
on this card.
I mean, you can use this thing with like ball lightnings, or there's actually like a green version of a ball lightning. And I can't remember what this is. It's in a new border. It's in a new border set. So I haven't bought any yet. I haven't played any yet, but I first came across it. I was like, oh, that's crazy, man. They made like, it's even slightly better than ball lightning if I'm thinking correctly. Might even be like 7/7 trample haste or something. But this is the one that I first saw, and I like this idea of just like flipping through your deck and just putting a creature directly into play. You know, you play it in a deck that just has like Oath and then like big fat creatures that you don't normally want to pay the casting cost of, but if you can just put them directly into play with Oath, that's awesome.
Yeah. I feel like you definitely want to be, since you're going to have fewer creatures than your opponent, you want to be using this with like, big creatures, but like also things that are maybe have trample or are unblockable, or, because you still need to get them through somehow.
Yeah.
But that's not that much of a challenge because it's a big creature. If it's a big, awesome creature with a high casting cost, you might have multiple sweet abilities. So, and since you're not paying the casting cost, like.
I have to look up, at some point, I'm going to go through different Oath decks in the pre-modern format, and we'll talk about how people build Oath decks. I haven't really gotten that deep into it yet. I want to see exactly what people build it with, but you know, my head immediately went to cards that give your opponents tiny little creatures. It's
Oh,
probably not
yeah.
the best way to build this deck, but I have seen some people or heard some people talk about
Maybe.
running it with something like Varchild's
I
War
was just going to
Riders.
say that.
So there's
Yeah,
actually a
I can
guy.
use this in my Varchild's War Rider deck.
There's actually a guy on the pre-modcast.
I
If
actually
he
like that
does,
card.
yeah, if he doesn't currently like build Varchild's War Riders Oath decks, I know he has in the past. He's talked about that a little bit, trying to make that
Uh-huh.
more efficient, trying to get that to work better.
Yeah.
Feldegriff. I remembered Feldegriff, the hippo,
Yeah.
another reserve list card that is kind of funny that it's on the reserve list. And
I have 2 of those.
I haven't bought any yet, but I feel like I kind of wanted one. I just never knew what I would do with it. But you could run this in an Oath of Druids deck. Because one of its
Oh, I don't have Feldegriff. I got confused. I mixed it up with Pygmy Hippo.
oh yeah. I don't remember what Pygmy Hippo does. I have a couple Pygmy Hippos. I have no Feldegriffs. But Feldegriff is one colorless, one white, one blue, one green, 4/4 summon legend hippo. You can pay a white to give it flying until end of turn, and target opponent gains 2 life. You can pay a blue to return it to its owner's hand. Target opponent then draws a card. None of these are great. You can also pay a black to give it trample until end of turn. And when you do that, you put a hippo token into play under target opponent's control. This token is a 1/1 green creature. So if you have Feldegriff out, pay a black, give your opponent a 1/1 green token creature.
Why
every
is this
turn.
card white, blue, green to cast, but its abilities are white, blue, black to activate?
I think they
So weird.
purposely made it weird.
Yeah.
I don't remember
Yeah.
the story behind Feldegriff, but I think it might have been like, was it designed by Richard Garfield?
I don't know.
It might have been designed by Richard Garfield, and I feel like it was a goof of some sort.
Oh,
But yes, it's very strange, and I actually forgot that until you pointed that out. So if you want to build an Oath Feldegriff deck, it has to be at least
a
a
4-color deck. Yeah.
deck.
Ouch. I do it a different way, I think. I do this in a red-green deck, or yeah, I don't know.
It seems like
some-
Varchild's War Riders would be a better way to go than the Feldegriff route.
or some other just kind of like, played in a mostly creatureless deck or a defensive deck. So you don't even have to worry about like giving your opponent the creatures. You just
Yeah, exactly.
let them cast whatever they're going to cast. And as long as they're not playing creatureless, like you'll be fine.
And if they are, then you just sideboard some shit in for game 2 or something, I guess.
Yeah, because you're kind of going to be screwed then. But
you got to have a sideboard for that. Yeah.
or just, that can't be like your only really way to win. Another thing that surprises me about Oath of Druids is just knowing the way certain cards like this sometimes work. I'm kind of surprised that they don't make it be a green creature. Like you can use this on a creature of any color, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. That is cool.
In fact, you can put. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I first started thinking about this card when I got back into Magic. I was thinking about Legends a lot and all the Legends cards that I wish I had. And I was like, oh man, I wish I could play a Eureka deck. And of course, this isn't like Eureka. It's not as cool as Eureka. You can't build up a whole hand like full of big fatties and then just play Eureka and then just drop like 7 fatties all at the same time. But like this is a much cheaper way to kind of have the same effect on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
Just get to play like 1 fatty.
Well, yeah, it's similar to Natural Order or
yeah.
What, Survival of the Fittest is the other one, right?
Survival of the Fittest. We've been through this before, and I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember exactly how it works.
But now Survival. Sorry, go ahead.
Sacrifice a creature, and then
Does Survival of the
puts-
Fittest go to your hand or into play? I think that might be the one thing.
That's what we keep forgetting.
It takes to your hand.
This is what I always screw up. I always say it's sacrifice a creature again because it has a picture of one of these goblins smashing the brains in of another god, and so I automatically think it's a sacrifice a creature in play.
Yeah,
but no,
but it's discard.
It's discard a creature, and then you search your library for a creature card and you reveal that card and put it into your hand. So
Yeah, I still don't like
lets-
this card as much. I like the
Oath-
things that bring cards into play instead of your
Yeah.
hand.
Oath brings it directly into play. Oath lets you mill your deck, which you might want to do.
It's way cheaper.
It's not $200. Which what is Survival of the Fittest running right now? 200
Over
and
100.
250.
Too
People
much.
love it with Squee. They love it with Squee.
Really?
You discard Squee, you just bring it back. You discard Squee, next turn you bring it back. You discard Squee, you search for a fatty, bring it back.
Yeah, it's true. It's an extra card every turn
$250.
or more. Heck.
But yes, Survival of the
Ouch.
Fittest is much cheaper. We've learned you can run it with Feldogriff, but if you would wanted to do that, it'd probably be better to run it with Varchild's War Riders. You just make a 2-color deck instead of a 4-color deck. Another thing that I saw people play Oath of Druids with, I wish this card was pre-modern legal or old border, but it's not. So I'll probably never
Forbidden.
Forbidden Orchard. I'll probably never run an Oath of Druids Forbidden Orchard deck because it's new border. But the kids these days who play with the new border cards, they do play Oath of Druids with Forbidden Orchard. Forbidden Orchard, have you seen this before, Alex?
Only in passing, I think.
Okay. It's a land.
I like
It
the
looks
art.
like it looks like it has those weird like stick creatures
Oh,
on it
sorta,
that we've
yeah, I
seen
like
in
those.
the art in the background on some other cards. Tap it to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Awesome. Whenever you tap it, 4 mana, you give a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token to your opponent. So here's a land that has a Varchild's War Riders like effect, a Feldogriff like effect, where you give your opponent a 1/1 token creature. So you play this with Oath of Druids. You use your Forbidden Orchard to give your opponent more creatures than you, but you're giving them little tiny 1/1s, and you're bringing your big fatties directly into play with Oath. I pulled this up. What's going on with the price here of Forbidden Orchard? It was $20 for a year
Probably
and a half.
double Masters 2022 reprint.
Yeah.
It got reprinted earlier this year.
Yeah, Double Master 2022. But you can get that Forbidden Orchard for $475. You can get the original Forbidden Orchard for $20 market price. This is a price chart where the market price and what is listed as the average price are deviating significantly.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on there. It says average price $11, market price $19. Let me click this on TCG Player and see what you can actually pick it up for at the moment. I like this card. I wish that it was old border.
Yeah, I kind of like it too. I like the art too on the first version of it.
Pulling this up on TCG Player.
Me too. Champions of Kamigawa. $10.
I'm going to look at near mint and light play. Man, light play, $5, $5, $6. What are the near mints?
9, 10.
9, 10. Yeah, okay. So the MTG stocks chart is just not updated really to the current market prices that people are paying for this card. So it's gone down quite a bit. That's what reprints will do. The price history chart on TCG Player isn't updated either. It keeps saying.
Well, I'm looking
$20.
also at like the sales
What's
history.
going on?
And that's a little bit weird too, because there haven't been very many selling. Going back to July, it's like 1 or 2 a month after July. There was 1 in August, 2 in September sold. Those sold for
What am I looking though? I'm looking at something
21
different,
and
Alex.
then 9 and then 10. And then 1 just sold for 14. I don't know if some of those are foil though. The way they list, no, it says foil on different ones, so they're not foil. Weird.
Well, I have this pulled up. I see a lot of sales history.
I'm just looking at near mint.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, people are buying the played versions for under $10. Near mint not going nearly as much, nearly as frequently. People aren't buying it. It's a player's card, not a collector's card. But yeah, that's a cool card. This is what the kids do with Oath of Druids. Old man magic. We got to play with Vartrad's War Riders. Or something else that I just haven't thought of yet.
That's cool though.
That's the end of the deal cycle, Alex. Those are the 5 Oath cards in Exodus. I think Oath of Druids is definitely the best. I want to try to build an Oath of Ghouls deck. I don't know how I would do it yet. I don't know why I like Oath of Ghouls. I'd probably like it less if it wasn't a reserve list card. It kind of makes me like it more. I don't know why.
Yeah, I like Druids the most. It's the one I would be most likely to play with.
I'm definitely gonna
Druids.
I'm definitely gonna build an Oath of Druids deck at some point. And just right now I'm just still making my my green stompy. I mean, it's pretty much made, but that's the only deck I've made so far. And then after I made that, I was like, I just want to build monocolor decks. So I got to build myself a pre-modern burn deck. I got to build the white whale, my pre-modern
white whale,
my pre-modern white fatty deck. I need to buy pearl medallions for that, so that's going to take a while. Also, I want it to be mostly angels, and I kind of want to buy Urza's incubators, but man, they're too expensive. I don't want to buy 2 or 3 Urza's incubators right now. I don't know where I saw this. I wish I remembered what I even saw. And it was just some random person on the internet saying something. So who knows if there's any truth to it. But I do remember recently seeing some comment about Urza's incubator potentially being reprinted in an upcoming set.
Oh, yeah.
That'll get me very excited. Because I've seen some reprints now. We've talked about some things that are recently reprinted in Modern Horizons 2.
Yeah, how much they dropped.
They drop. They take a while. They take longer than I thought. Sometimes it happens fast, but sometimes it's like 6 months to a year later you really start to see the effect. I would love to have that card reprinted and then swoop in and buy some of the original versions for cheaper. Now I'm saying all this and I'm thinking to myself, is Urza's incubator reserve list? So I should probably look that up. It's not. Yeah. So this might be ripe for a reprint, right?
Yeah,
Alex?
especially it fits in the theme with Brothers War, and I don't know if they.
Oh,
where are we with?
That's probably the context in which I saw this comment. I was probably reading some thread about Brothers War, people talking about like what was going to be in the set if it had reprints. I bet they mentioned this in there. In that context.
Yep. Yeah, that'd
but
be cool.
I don't know. You were going to ask, what were you going to ask? We're going to ask like, where were we on when it comes to spoilers for Brothers War?
Yeah. I don't know what they've announced and what is still like where that is.
I don't either.
But I feel like they haven't announced the stuff from it yet, or at least most of it, I think.
Just the other day, maybe 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago, I tuned into a Jake and Joel Are Magic video on YouTube. Sometimes when a new set is coming out that seems like it might be interesting to me, I'll kind of watch their stuff because they always cover the new stuff. And they did a live stream of it wasn't a live stream. They did a live stream of the announcement video. I don't know how to classify this, that Wizards put out, like introducing the players and the viewers to some of what was going to be in the Brothers War.
Okay.
And even they mentioned at the end of their live stream, they're like, that was kind of light on like card
reveals.
information. Yeah, okay. Very light on reveals. So there wasn't a lot. Now I'm pulling up something right now from a site called Magic Spoiler. magicspoiler.com, that has some Brothers War spoiler cards. Portal to Phyrexia, Caged Sun, Unwinding Clock, Inspiring Statuary, Helm of the Host, Defense Grid. This is awesome. I don't know what all these cards I named just were. I don't know if these are reprints or if these are new cards that are being introduced for the first time in the Brothers War. But Defense Grid, we know this is a reprint, right?
Yeah.
And this is something that we talked about not that many episodes ago. And we were both like, oh man, I wish it wasn't so expensive.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, no, yeah.
So that's sweet. Let me see what Defense Grid is running at right now. Alex, in 6 months, I'm going to scoop up. Well, this is also something that's been reprinted multiple times, but still maybe. Okay, so maybe it won't collapse because it's already been reprinted in 8th edition and 9th edition. But maybe it'll do something to the price, bring it down a little bit.
Yeah.
It's running at $20 market price right now.
I like that new
So
art.
We'll see what happens in the Brothers War. Yeah, it's like a
sketch, like a blueprint kind of
a
drawing.
blueprint. That's the word that I was looking for. It's like a blueprint of the Defense Grid. Mark Tadine. Mark Tadine. He was also the artist for the original.
Cool.
Oh, they brought the same guy back to do like alternative art for the original card. I don't feel like they do that most of the time.
I think they're starting to do it more now, but I don't know because we're just getting back into this. But it seems like there's like an upswing of that.
Urza's Silex, Alex. In the upcoming weeks, at some point, I want to revisit Antiquities. I want to revisit the storyline between the original Antiquities. There's a lot that I don't know because from back in the day, there wasn't really all that much information out there about it. We just kind of bought the cards and played the cards, and we would see the people's names on the cards, but the story wasn't as rich as it is these days. We have novels and all sorts of things filling in all the background about these characters. But I do remember something about Urza's Silex. It was like the end of the Brothers War when the Silex was exploded.
Oh.
We could talk about that when we go through the history. I'm scanning through some more of these spoilers. Rust Goliath, some more Thrans. I'm really just scanning to see if Urza's Incubator's in here anywhere. I'm not seeing it. Mishra's Bauble, I almost got excited for a second because I thought it was going to be Urza's Bauble. And Urza's Bauble is more expensive than it should be. And I was like, oh, maybe they're doing a reprint of Urza's Bauble. Mishra's
Altar
Bauble.
of Dementia.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Because that's another card that's popular in some pre-modern decks.
Yeah, I have one actually, so it'll make me mad that it will go down in price maybe, but
it doesn't make me mad. It makes me happy because I want to buy some. Yeah, so Altar of Dementia is a definite reprint. There might be some other things in here too.
There's a few more in there that I recognize as reprints, but they're mostly like newer cards. There's a lot of cards here. Jeez. Oh, Llanowar Wastes is in it. Underground River, Brushland.
I wonder if this is the full list of spoilers. You know what? Didn't they announce what was the set that like the Allied Painlands were just reprinted in? Didn't they just reprint half the Painlands and in Dominaria United? Maybe.
Now I'm losing it. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm not up on that enough.
You know what I'm talking about, though. They just reprinted half the Painlands, and some people were like, "Why'd they only print half?"
Yeah.
And then others were saying, "Oh, just wait. They're going to reprint the other half soon." So are they in Brothers War? You just saw.
Yeah.
You just saw
three
Brushland.
of them.
Okay.
Underground River and Brushland, and Llanowar Wastes.
Battlefield Forge. That was one of the Apocalypse one.
Oh yeah, I see that
Llanowar
there now
Waste,
too. Yeah.
Apocalypse
Okay.
ones, Underground River, and Brushland. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't see an Urza's Incubator.
Well, yeah, this isn't too many cards, so maybe it's still coming. Doesn't look like. I mean, this isn't a whole set, So
Yeah, that's true.
cool.
And I do think they have more stuff to release. Anywho, that's the end of the Oath, Psycho Alex. That's the end
That's
of
the
our
end of it.
that's the end of our browsing through the Brothers War spoilers as well. Do you have any little cards you want to talk about that you noticed that you found out about for the first time recently? Do you have any purchases that you would like to discuss?
Yeah, I have one. I know we're doing kind of a short episode here today, but there's one card that I've had my eye on, and I think I'm going to buy. That I didn't notice before, and I think maybe I'd seen it before and ignored it, but that card is Root Maze. Do you want to check that out? Do you know that card?
I don't.
Root Maze. Root Maze is a green enchantment. Costs. Oh, I lost it. What?
A green enchantment.
Yes. It costs 1 green. It's from Tempest originally.
Yeah.
Not reserved list. Has been reprinted in 10th edition.
Cool.
It goes for about $8. 1 green enchantment. All artifacts and lands come into play tapped. Low casting cost, big lockdown spell kind of deal. I kind of like this. I don't know. I was thinking a little bit about what to do with it. It might go. There's a lot of things you could do with it, is what I was going to say.
I mean, in green, you have so many creatures that produce land that.
Yes, that was one of the big things with Birds of Paradise and stuff.
Produce mana. Yeah.
Llanowar Elves, you can not have to worry about that. You could use it in a land lockdown deck with Mana Web or something like that. Yeah. I like it. You could use it with artifacts that it doesn't matter if they're tapped. You know what I mean? Like continuous effect artifacts as opposed to artifacts that tap for something.
Yeah. What is pretty cool. It's $8 market price right now. I wonder what people have been doing with it.
I don't know.
Probably green lockdown decks full of mana elves. Rebecca Guay art.
Oh, okay, cool.
People run it with exploration. I was trying to think of this card. Exploration is 1 green enchantment. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. So you put 2 lands in. They're tapped the first turn, but the second turn you get to untap, and then you still have 2 lands on the second turn. And it's only applied to you, not your opponent. So yeah, there's lots of green things that you can run with this card that kind of help you out to get you, you're still locked down from it, but it's not as detrimental to you because you have exploration down, you have mana elves down. Mana Bond, 1 green enchantment. At the beginning of your next step, you may reveal your hand and put all land cards from it onto the battlefield. If you do, discard your hand. You drop all your lands. This is a fucking expensive card, Mana Bond.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Might be a fun card.
It's a pretty cool card. Not too expensive. Good art. Pretty useful. Okay, Alex. Short episode for today.
Hey, Steve. Yeah. Have fun on vacation.
Thank you. Well, we'll see how many we might be missing for a couple weeks. I think we'll probably be missing for 2 weeks. We'll see what we can do.
Back.
We'll see what we can do over the next 4 or 5 days if we can record anything. Maybe another short episode.
Maybe another mini episode or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
But if not, we will be back in 2 to 3 weeks with more episodes of the Old Man Magic podcast. It's going to keep rolling. It's going to keep rolling through 2023, 2024, 2025, all through the 2020s. But for now, don't worry about what's going to happen in 2025. I'm just asking you right now in 2022, visit our YouTube page, Old Man Magic at YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, You can also listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Do you have anything to add, Alex?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, great. Nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you too, Steve.
See you in a couple of weeks, maybe.
Take it easy.
Maybe next week.